Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel. And if you're new to our channel, my name is Ritabande and I'm a watercolor artist. And in today's video, you all already know that we are going to create some still life paintings of some grapes using some watercolors. And in this video, I have taught you all how you can create some nice backgrounds, some highlights, and how you can just amplify the depth in your painting and all of that. But in case before getting started, I have one last thing to say, that if you're interested in learning in-depth study of the still life, you might consider checking the link in the description box below, where I have a link to my course where I have covered everything you need to know of the still life paintings. It is a live session for 2 months with very limited participants, so you might consider checking them out. Okay, so I'm not going to waste a lot of time talking. I'm just getting started with the video.
Getting started, I'm just sketching out the basic drawing that is in my mind, or you can just take out a photograph from the internet, or you can place some object in still life painting as well and try to replicate the drawing as much as possible. I'll just ask all of you to focus much on the symmetry of the object, the shape of the object, and also the depth of the object, and to look into the object at least twice or thrice so that you can be double sure that your painting or the drawing before you start the coloring is totally perfect. So right now, getting started with the coloring, you will need some brushes and some colors. And for this one, I'll be using initially some purple color and some blue color, mix them together on the palette to get the perfect natural tone for the dark grapes. The dark grapes, I'm going to paint by putting the color on one side and then slowly taking some water in a tiny little brush and diluting it on the other side, so that I can get a really smooth kind of a blend and also a nice contrast on the paper, which will give me the natural look of the grapes. That will be my process of this video of this painting the grapes, but you have to make sure all of the grapes must have highlights at a slightly different portion so that all of the grapes doesn't look exactly the same. After getting done with the dark colored grapes, we'll go for the light colored ones. Mixing some yellow color with a little sap green, we'll get the perfect color that we need. Now for the grapes that are on the lower half, we have to make sure not to blend the color too much, because you will notice in the stack of grapes like this, the lower half the grapes are not getting that much amount of light, so we are not focusing on the contrast that much on the grapes that are on the lower side. So over here, just try to keep the highlights that would do for now, and also for the lighter color grapes, try to keep a little bit of color variations. At some areas while mixing the two colors, use a little bit more green to the yellow. At some areas, use a little bit more yellow to the green. And for some areas, you might mix a little amount of burnt sienna to the overall mixture. The reason being that some of the grapes are ripe, some of the grapes are not so ripe, and some of the grapes are slightly going to the rotten side. So that kind of effect we want to get. For the areas that are in between the grapes, we'll try to put some dark colors in between them so that we get a greater contrast in between the grapes, and also we can highlight the lighted areas more and more. But make sure you only use brown and dark purple for this work. Now observe the entire process however done it from a close-up view over here. After getting done with the stack of the grapes on the lower half, I am going for the stack of the grapes that are on the upper half. Make sure the grapes on the upper half are very transparent and light in color so that it seems the light is falling from the upper half. After getting done with this light colored grapes, I thought of starting off with one dark colored grapes to end this area and then go for the background. For the background colors, I have mixed some cobalt blue with some burnt sienna and some vermilion to create a grayish kind of color tone like this. After getting this, I have applied some water all over the area of the paper, keeping aside the areas which has the grapes. Now on the wet paper, I am putting the color so that it spreads out well like this, and it can just spread out on its own without any hard edges. Just make sure the color doesn't get into the area of the grapes. At some areas, you may alternate the color mixture, like adding a little bit more blue to the color mixture, at some areas adding a little bit brown to the color mixture, but overall the color mixture should look like a grayish kind of a tone, which is a neutral tone, which is really the most favorable tone in still life for highlighting this kind of fruits or any other object. Just be very careful with the edges. So let's finish up the background with a light wash. Now finish off the grapes at the foreground using the same technique, and if you're watching the video till now and you're liking it, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and like our video. And right now, after you are done with the grapes, you might want to get the reflection of the grapes too. So for that, use some water to pull up the paints from the background a little bit and put a little bit of realistic grapes color that you have used for the grapes in the lower half so that it seems like there is a reflection of the grapes that are falling. And repeat this process for all of the 4 grapes that are on the lower half of the paper. adding some darker strokes to the area closest to the reflection to make it look more and more realistic, and also adding some details with some slight darker colors to make sure the edges look perfect of the grapes. And after getting done with the grapes, we can start off with the bowl. For the bowl, we have to make sure we just create the bowl like it looks like a 3D object. We can do that very easily by putting in some lighter colors in the middle areas and some darker colors at the edges, but making sure the upper half should have like a very light kind of a highlight, which is going to create a contrast with the grapes. And also don't miss out the small highlight that I have got on the top of the small grape that is falling on the surface. After you are done with the bowl with some dark colors and some light colors, mixing them up very nicely, we need to draw out the edge of the bowl and add a light shadow on the edge to make it look very realistic. So after we are done with this bowl, we have to do the stems of the grapes. For that I have used some burnt sienna, and I must mix the burnt sienna color with some cobalt blue to get a darker version of the burnt sienna color, and with a fine brush I have drawn out the stems. You can always follow the pencil lines to draw out the stems in a perfect way. After that, time for some finishing touches over here by adding some details like some shadows and everything, so that some of the grapes might look lighter in color, some of the grapes might look darker in color, and it seems very realistic, and the effect of light and shade gets more and more intensified. So that's how we will be doing. Now observe the whole process as we finish off the painting. And we are done with the painting right now. I hope you enjoyed the complete video. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel for more such exciting tutorials.